Last week, I watched thousands of documentaries about the Gaza Strip and the Israel-Palestine conflict and the attack, which happened at the beginning of October. And in this video, I'm going to talk about it. So let's get started. To understand today's situation, we have to go back in time. The story began after the First World War, when the area, so-called Palestine, went to Britain. That time, there were the majority of Palestinian people. But from the beginning of the 20th century, more and more Jews arrived in the Middle East. However, the Palestinians didn't look kindly on the arrival of Jews, so, to prevent the war between them, United Nations asked Britain to split the area into a Jewish and a Palestine country. The plan was accepted by the Jews, but it was refused by the Palestinian side. Britain realized the problem wouldn't be solved, so they left the area. This way, the path was open to the Jews to create their own state. Therefore, in the May of 1948, Jewish leaders established Israel. But other Arabic countries opposed it, and 5 of them immediately attacked the new country. The first Jewish-Arabic war started. During the war, 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes. The war ended a year later with the victory of Israel. And we all know they would have been captured if the US didn't help. But back to the topic, Israel defended most of its territory, but some areas were captured by the Arabic countries, like Jordan got the West Bank, which is the area east from Jerusalem, and Egypt got Gaza and the area around it, which became the Gaza Strip. It is located between Israel and Egypt, and it is very small, 41 km long and 10 km wide, where almost 2.4 million people live. That number is insane. It is like we squeeze 1.3 Budapest into this little area. So, not by chance, it is one of the most densely populated areas on the earth. But also, it is one of the oldest cities on the earth. After we got the raw facts down, let's see its history. As I said, its history starts with Egypt. But after the war, the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip couldn't go anywhere, because Egypt didn't recognize them as a citizen, and Israel also didn't allow them to cross its border. This went this way until 1967, when Israel started the Six-Day War, which was the consequence of Egypt blocking the Straits of Tiran. That means Israel couldn't trade on the Red Sea. So, Israel had enough and attacked some countries around itself, like Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. 6 days later, Israel won with brutal dominance. It tripled its area by capturing the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, and some parts from Syria. And don't forget it, they also captured the Gaza Strip. The condition went this way for almost a decade, when the two lost countries, Egypt and Syria, planned to attack Israel from both sides at the same time, and the next war started. At first, both countries achieved major success, but Israel made the comeback and brought both countries back over their border. Later on, the 3 countries made a peace agreement which included that if Egypt recognized Israel as an independent state, it will get the Sinai Peninsula back. It did it, but some months later, the president of Egypt was brutally assassinated. But back to the main topic, which is the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians' frustration over Israel's military occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip grew, and it exploded with a violent uprising in 1987, which is called the First Intifada. This would be avoidable, but because of an unlucky accident, it happened, when an Israeli military truck collided in the north of Gaza with a Palestinian vehicle, and unfortunately, all the Palestinians died. But it was just an accident, wasn't it? What is important in this? Well, a day before, the authorities found a stabbed Jewish man in the Gaza Strip, so the inhabitants thought it was the answer to the incident the day before. From then, there was no stop. News spread very quickly to the West Bank, and in both areas a lot of demonstrations started, which became more and more violent. In the next 5 years, during the uprising, a lot of Jews and Palestinians died. Luckily, the tensions decreased by the beginning of the next century. But the peace, as always, didn't last for a very long time between them. Some little wars always occurred in the next decade, until 2005, when Israel realized there won't be a peace in the area, so its military withdrew from the Gaza Strip. Hamas, a famous terrorist group, took over the control of the territory. And that's how we reached the surprise attack at the beginning of October. When I write this line, the war is still in progress, so sorry if the information is inaccurate or wrong. At first, the attack began on the early Saturday morning with a rocket barrage of at least 3,000 rockets against Israel. It was as much as the Iron Dome, an air defense system around the Gaza Strip, couldn't shoot them all. In parallel, about 2,500 Palestinian militants breached the Gaza-Israel barrier, massacring unarmed civils near the border. Unfortunately, a music festival took place exactly that time, so they went there and killed hundreds of festival goers. At least 260 people were massacred, and a lot of them were taken to the Gaza Strip, including women and children. The next day, Israel started its largest counteroffensive. Israel's airstrike caused almost twice as many deaths as the Hamas did the day before. And that is the situation at this moment. Now, let's conclude. Their fight has been going on for a long time. I think the conflict won't be solved by the statements or any other future negotiations. Rather, the two ethnic groups of people should agree with each other and live in peace in the future. And now, we are at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button below and comment on what do you think of this topic. I was Aaron, bye.